meeting to order. Can I have a roll call, please, Michelle?
Clifton.
Here.
Fitch. Here. Stansel. Here.
All present. Can I motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Diane, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Heather, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have a full agenda today. Our construction meeting kind of got a little sideways with some things that we had to get approved and whatnot, so we're gonna click along with you there. Probably the biggest thing on our construction agenda is the south doors at the courthouse, so when we get to that construction portion of the meeting, we're gonna take a field trip over there so we can physically look at that. So the first resolution we have is approving Emily Reedburn as the first deputy auditor at $62,121.58 per year, 80% of the elected official salary effective July 17th. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Diane, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Heather. Any further discussion, or do you wanna give a brief explanation of what's going on?
Yep, so Sarah resigned her position effective July 14th, so last Friday was her last day. So this is moving Emily into that position to fill that vacancy.
Okay. If there's no other discussion, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is a resolution approving Danny Phillips' compensation change to $28.02 per hour, or 75% of the elected official salary effective July 17th. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Heather, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Diane, any further discussion? Congratulations, Danny.
So Danny's gonna take on some additional things. What we're going to do is, we're gonna kind of wait it out a little bit and see really what we need. There's a chance I will not hire back a second deputy. I might hire back like an office assistant or something like that at a lower rate of pay. But we wanna go through and kind of figure out what do we really need. Emily's gonna try and take on claims and payroll. And so Danny's gonna pick up some additional things like township stuff and passports and stuff like that to kind of figure out, here's what we really need in our office. So I do plan to hire back another person, but it may be a little bit, we have a little bit more flexibility right now with it not being an election, a full election year. So obviously next year, Danny will be full on elections from about March to December. So her availability will be a little less. But I will eventually hire a new position. I just don't know what that's gonna look like yet.
Do you hire a PRN person, Shelley, as needed?
I could hire and I do that during election time.
Sure.
Sometimes Joan Naylor will come in and fill in to help with, at the office, like at the counter, for absentees and stuff. So I could do that, but I really think we're gonna need somebody else in our office. I just don't know what that capacity needs to look like. You know, do I need somebody there answering the phones all the time and doing all of that? So
Fortunately, it's a good time of your year.
yes, it is, yeah. And so I really wanna evaluate what do we need, so I'm not just replacing a position without really looking at what do we need, what does that need to look like?
Makes sense.
Thanks,
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is a resolution approving the appointment of Aaron Hardesty as county attorney effective today. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Heather, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Diane, any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We have a fireworks permit for this weekend. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Motion by Heather, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Diane, any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Who normally lets that person know it was passed? Is that Michelle, you do? Okay.
Okay, we are going to reconvene at the south side of the courthouse then.
Are we gonna do that other discussion item after that?
I don't think we're gonna have time for that.
To actually function and swing out.
So you're gonna have to cut some woods and.
We're gonna have to cut some of this wood to get that.
Can I ask a question? If you spend some doors, wouldn't that will take care of itself?
We want to do that because we're going to show you some other things that I think are going to simplify this and make it easier for the contractors and keep the doors in sort of their original position. Remember, all this stuff's in the center of the door. As soon as you move it over there, you start seeing patches and mud into the door. So it makes some sense to kind of keep them where they are. Okay?
Well, I guess I'm not like thinking like this, like, outside we can see
Well,
inside.
you can't do that because look at the trim here,
Okay.
and then look how simple it is here.
Okay. I don't know if you're still doing.
So you want to keep all this stuff on the exterior of the door as you do, okay? All right, so, to accomplish that, then, there's one more thing that's gonna happen. So by making these doors a little less wide, because we're gonna trim some of this off, we're gonna do something else here that we need back in this pocket. I'm gonna show you a drawing here in a second when we finish this. So we try to keep this going. So, to get those things to swing out, one of the things that you'll notice here, because we have all this trim and you need to offset the door. What's that mean? An offset is basically where is the center of this hinge compared to the face of the door, so that when the door swings open, you clear all that stuff. So, we're going to need to do hinges like this, again, that have this big, deep change here, to make sure that when they swing out, all that stuff on the exterior misses the stone and everything else.
So are you gonna be replacing those original hinges?
All those hinges have to come out, they're at the end of their life anyway. They're not
And they
functional.
don't work, there's on the top or all shot.
So these are not original. This is your original hinge. Looks very different, very, very much decorative.
Okay.
All of them have to be replaced. They don't function. They're not letting the door sit carefully or appropriately anyway. So we're going to put something back in place that looks exactly like that. Same size, everything, except we're going to put 4 of them on, not 3.
Okay.
4 of them gives the door more capacity, they hold truer, and it'll help the
Will they be the same color as that, or?
They will be basically the same color as that. I'm going to talk about finishes in a second. I'm going to get through some of this stuff here. So, when we do this, and then actually need that door to miss all this, that offset helps us do that. Okay, so the door, when it swings open, the backside of the door should be about right here. Okay?
So are you, basically you're building up this here, and you're cutting, like at this side or the other side, you're cutting
I'm cutting a
one.
little off of this and that one.
Okay, about what, inch each side?
I'm going to guess total on each door. Where's it? About 3/4 of an inch. So let me show you how we're going to do that.
On each door?
Yes.
Okay.
So on the doors, on the jam, we're going to show you, this is a detail. It is basically looking at this jam right here. So this is the door. Anything that is in a white box is new trim. So basically, we're going to put a piece of roughly 3/4 inch trim in that door pocket and move that door this way. And then we're going to do something else because we've got this conduit that we've got to accommodate well. And we've got more conduit than this we need to accommodate. So we're going to suggest to you that we take the fascia trim, which is this, we call it the casing. This stuff that's the decorative stuff on the front of the door.
Yeah.
Anything that's got that squiggly line through it is an existing piece. I want to add behind it another hardwood piece there, and I want to add some hardwood there, so that we take this casing and move it this way, roughly an inch. And the reason we do that, right, we create a chase, and the other thing it does is when these doors are swinging the other direction, it gives us the ability to put a door stop so the door can hit something, and we can weather strip it.
Okay. So what about the trim on the inside? Obviously, once you pull this forward, you're gonna have to change the
We'll,
trim there.
yeah, so all we do is put a little piece of trim in here, and what happens is, we mount this stuck out from the wall, now it goes from this to this.
Okay. The wood is easy, I'm talking about the original granite.
It doesn't mess with any of that, I don't think. And we can coat the stuff, the wood around that to accommodate it, so I'm not worried about any of that.
Okay.
The other thing is the base of this is a little thicker. You look at those doors, you see how they get, the trim on the top and the bottom gets thicker.
Yeah.
So all of that changes as you move up the door a little bit. So that trim is just gonna get moved out. So we've got to take that arch that's up there off and move it out as well. So that all of that is in the same face.
Okay, so help me understand again, I understand that at the, we're taking edges off the doors and we're building out the trims around our building, I get that. Help me understand why we have to move everything forward here.
You see this little piece of trim right here, this arrow? It's a stop.
Yeah.
I don't have that stop, but I have any way to weather strip this edge of the hinge. By putting that there, I get a weather stripping in, and I get something that the door actually closes against.
Okay,
Okay?
okay.
So that's the least change that I can accomplish on this thing to get it all sort of back into its original shape.
And we keep the original the original finish, trim work on the outside rather than.
We're gonna talk about that in a minute, okay? So,
Okay.
we come more here. So, the other change that we've got, and I wanna simplify some things, because I think we've got some unnecessary hardware in the doors the way we have them specified right now. So today, what's sitting in the trailer is, I'm gonna kneel over.
Yep.
When you come to this door, you would hit a panic bar, it would deactivate and unlatch this door. I would come to this door, I would hit a panic bar. I would hit a panic bar here and then out. The only thing that we need, frankly, is this door needs a panic bar.
You don't need
This
that
one
one.
remains stationary.
I want to leave this stationary. I want to reuse the bolts on the floor and the head. I want to change the way the stops work, so there's a trim that has to change the top and the outside a little bit, but it basically stays the same and this stays fixed. We never, of course, just like you do, Dave, you never want to reuse this
Is
door.
that going to be wide enough for handicap though? or is it
Yes,
take the
absolutely,
doors
it's
off
6
and
inches, got 6 inches to spare.
stuff?
The other thing it needs is it needs all the exit units required for this building. You have to count up the number of inches for the occupants you've got. This is more than enough for all floors. Okay, so what I would propose is you get rid of this panic and make this fixed. You keep a panic bar here, and now I'm going to move these doors for just a second. So on these doors, to simplify some stuff and get rid of a bunch of junk that we've been doing over here, I want to get rid of the panics on this door. I want to basically have these doors closed, hit stop, and that's it. So when you come to these doors, rather than hitting a panic bar and anything to turn, I want you to hit a push plate and walk through it. So the door closes, this never locks, doesn't need to lock when you do anything like that. You
Is
don't
it going to
even
be
have to-
automatic though?
This side and that are automatic. This one's not. Okay?
But this one will still open if someone's open.
Yeah, so that's a good question, but I want to talk about the operational stuff as well. So by the way, slow me down, but I'd like to basically put a push on these, and on this side, I'm going to change to something that's just going to be a pull. Stationary, doesn't do anything, it's going to restore, all you do is come up and pull. Okay?
But there will be a button or something for
Yep.
the hand.
Exactly. So, all right, I'm going back to those doors now. This is what is specified and what's frankly necessary on this side of the door. This goes here. So that goes there. It'll sit approximately here. This lever does not work with this trim. When it comes in for then, the panic bar is going to sit about right here. It's going to run the full width of that. This is the finish of everything. This is a USB. This is a dark bronze.
Like
Okay?
oil rub bronze?
It's a 10B. I know that it's oil rub, but it's the dark bronze. It's the same thing. The only difference between the oil rub is how it wears.
Right.
Okay, so what this will do is, unlike this, which tarnishes and gets bright brass, it looks that way from the beginning. Sometimes you buy these bright brass and then they turn dark. This works in the reverse. So this is going to be this color typically, and then as it wears, you are going to start to see some of the brass come through it. Okay? Right. The reason we use this is because when you start to pick all the manufacturers for all the different hardware, this is a common finish.
Right.
If you don't, you're going to get some that are gold and some that are silver and other things. So this lets everything look the same. Okay?
This is gonna mount outside.
This is going to go on the outside. It'll be roughly here. This lever will actually be on this side, not this one. And I'm going to change this lever to something that's more historic.
Is it going to be more like a doorknob like that?
It has to be a lever. By code, it has to be a lever. So that looks like. That lever looks like this. So it's got a little sort of couple knurls on it, and it's the most historic thing you can get in a lever.
Okay.
Okay? And this is
Has
the
to
trim
be
and
a
it
lever.
Yep. Has to be by code. Okay.
So what happens to the existing hardware right now, once that changes name?
All of that has to come off. All of this disappears. This could remain, but it's not necessary to patch this. You should tell me if you want that patched and pulled out, that's fine. So what will be on this door? Let's talk about the operations of these doors for a minute. So when you come in the morning, if you came in this door, there'll be a key next to that lever, sort of like this. You would open this door and come in. All the operators will be shut off. They won't operate at that point, so that's how you would enter. Okay, during the day then what happens? So the first thing that happens when Chip or somebody gets ready to open the door for the public, they come in, that's unlocked from the outside. This panic bar needs to be pushed in and deactivated, and it's done, it's called dogging. So it basically pulls that little latch in, and it allows that thing to swing freely, and it allows the operators that work with that door to find it. So in the morning, you come in, you unlock, you dog this down, and then there's a key over here that you can decide where we're going to put it. You turn a key, that key turns on this operator. You turn on another key, it turns on this operator. In fact, this operator, frankly, could remain on all the time. I probably wouldn't even need a key on or off, but I would suggest we do one. The only way to shut these operators off is to touch them on the top. If you do a remote key, you can shut them off conveniently down low. Because they're so tall, that's one of the keys.
So is there a bypass? I'm assuming these are all electric, so is there a way to bypass in case we lose power or something?
They have backup in them, a specified period, and then it's like any other bill. By the way, you don't have to put an operator by code, but everybody does it to make sure that they are completely accessible.
I just want to make sure that we can make them manual, should we ever lose power and
You can always push the door open. It's just harder. Right, it's going to have a little bit more resistance, but you can always do that. So that's how the operation would work. So every morning, though, whenever you want this thing to start up, you got to turn those keys on. Okay? All right. Now, the next thing that is something that was not well coordinated is you will see we've got a conduit here. This is low voltage. It comes from the power source, makes the operator room. There's one for each of these. There's one in this frame too. The thing that we don't have in place yet as a part of the operator is you have the buttons to the door that operate it, and you have the key switch. So every button that we have on the door has to go to the operator up here, which is the part of the reason we like this chase. So we put a button here on this door. You hit that, and it'll open this door out. On the exterior, and I want you to approve this. The exterior.
So that button's going to on and swings out.
On the exterior, your choices for button are first, I would not put it on this side because the door is going to swing into you. So I would either put the button here, which we don't like for obvious reasons, or I would put the button here, which we can get to easily. So those are your only choices. So I'm suggesting we get it right here in the center. Somebody can hit this. This is always fixed. It's never going to interfere with them, and they go in.
So why wouldn't we put it on, because usually it's usually on the side that the door opens, is it not?
Not always. And I wouldn't do it on this way because if you come up here and hit it, the door's going to swing into you.
Okay.
So I want the person out of the way of the door. Okay, it's not an issue on the other side. Okay?
No, that makes sense.
And that wouldn't be hard if you had to roll off, you could hit that, and then the door would swing out, and it wouldn't, because if you put it there, it's not wrong.
Are there, has this been reviewed and approved by National Storage Society that we're going to be changing?
We're not
these
doing
doors?
anything that's substantial. They're never going to even understand the difference between our doors.
So we have to
They'll all
Where's-
work.
where's
I
the-
understand,
where's the
but I
second
just
button
want to
at
make
then?
sure that that's okay, because I don't want to have to restart my house.
I will do that for you, Heather, but it'll never issue your grants.
So that door opens, and where's the button for?
So let's talk about that. Come on in here.
So now they're in, the door closes, and they want to get through these doors.
Right, so let's finish here. So this door has a button over here somewhere. Okay, so when you're exiting, you come up, you hit this door, it'll be out of the line of clearance on that. You've got chases in here that we can use if we want to, but I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And then you can come out. The other button then we would put over here would be this door. So that would operate this as you would come in. We like these roughly in the center so that you've got an easy way to sort of navigate the doors as they're opening. I wouldn't put them all the way over there. So you've got enough room in here that you've got enough room in here that I think we can deal with that.
So how does this door swing?
It's all gotta go out.
Would it be better to put it closer to this one? So we have,
Because it swings into them.
Remember, this door is still potentially out, well, you're right. You can put it all the way back here if you want.
But that door's probably open for,
Right.
like,
For a
inside.
while. 'Cause if you
Yeah,
put
so
it
we'll,
closer,
so
it's-
first, maybe I didn't miss something. I don't want you, we're not gonna put it into the swing of this door. This door comes out over here. The buttons will be here. Let's be clear on that, okay? So we
what
gotta,
about if we just coordinate it and hit the button to open this door and open this one?
because then you get the doors open at the same time and you get a giant roll of wind down the middle. And it's more expensive to do that. Okay? So, couple buttons here, all right? There's another button over here. Why don't everybody step this way, please? The other thing, though, that we need to sort out is something that we didn't receive any diagrams in the drawings, and we didn't show any diagrams as to how to deal with these buttons for the operators. We need a button over here. I gotta get this button and wire to that head, which means one of two things. We can either do it like this. This is called wire mold. We would typically come in and not do that. In fact, if we restore the whole building and get rid of this, what we would do is channel the wall out and bury it in the wall and put it flush.
Well, there's already a channel there now for that. And you just,
There's not for this.
I mean, you already have an exposed
That's
covering.
what I want to talk to you about. There's an option here. You can do this and those two buttons as remote. That means they've got a battery in it. The battery probably lasts 3 years. You would never have to do conduit. You don't know all you're done. But you got the battery. You got the battery. No. You're good there. You're fine. No issues. They can change the frequencies too if there's any issues. The only exception to that is the one on the exterior has to be hardwired. And it has to be hardwired because it's on the exterior that affects the battery performance, so we've got to get a conduit to it. So in that case, with it placed on this buck, we can drill through this fluid away the stone and get to that and get that hardwired. And then it's back in the chase and you can get up to this.
So why, is the wireless option less expensive?
It's more expensive.
It's more expensive.
But you also don't have all the labor to either put this in or bury it in the wall, which is the most expensive thing. It cleans it up.
Probably get close to the loft, doesn't it, if you channel it versus.
Isn't there any way we can just repurpose, you know, I mean, we have a channel there already, let's do something.
Are you talking about this?
Yeah.
This has to stay.
No, I understand,
Okay.
but we already have exposure right now, what would be the difference in that?
Hopefully in the future this does that.
But my
So-
point is, in the future, we can make both,
Yeah.
you're good.
So you can do this easily. You can go to remote and then not have to worry about it at all. You're good. But there's always a but. The only thing that we still then need to hardwire is the keys to turn them on. So you're always going to have a key for that door and this door to turn it on.
So either way, we're gonna have to hardwire something.
You're going to have to hardwire at least a key. Yeah, you could potentially not put a key on this one.
Why would you really need to key this door?
Just for operations, you wouldn't have to shut it off daily in this case, but you wouldn't have to get a ladder out to shut the thing off. You could always have a key down there. If it malfunctions, you can drag a ladder on it. It's easier just to do a key.
The only concern I have with wireless, I understand that, you know, it's a 3-year battery, but batteries fail, and what happens if whatever reason, if the battery dies while there, then we have some things we can.
I don't know, I can ask a question, maybe they meet, but I don't know. I can check.
I just don't wanna put us at risk if that happens, if the timing is wrong, for whatever reason.
So this is a decision I need from you guys. Do you want me to bury the hardwire? Do you want me to surface mount the hardwire like this? Or do you want me to go remote wherever possible?
Can we get a price on all of them?
Yes, but it takes time and I'd like to avoid pricing all that if we can.
Well, I'd like to know what the price is before we make a decision.
We can. I can
Because
do
I
most of
was
this
under the
order, but I can
assumption,
tell.
I was under the assumption that all of this was included in the bid.
It is included in the original bid with the exception of none of the wiring of this is addressed. We have all the hardwire that you put it in, but none of the prep for the wall is in the bid right now.
Why not? Why
Because
not?
we miss it. We miss it. So if we'd have put it in, you still had to pay for it. So what's in is all the hardware and everything. We don't have sorted the last pieces of the wire.
So the current bid assumes it has all the hardware, but there was nothing, no portion of how we were gonna get it there in the bid. So we didn't assume.
For the buttons, that's true.
Okay, so was there assumption when this was approved that was gonna be hardwired? Or was it
Yes.
gonna get chased, or?
Yes. We would have, had we put all that in, we would have indicated where the buttons were on the wall, and we would have indicated channeling of the wall. That's what we would have done from this day one. You've got this already. You can certainly back off and go to the surface mounted. It doesn't look as cleanly. I would either bury it, which is gonna be more expensive, or I would get the, or do
So
the,
probably, that's probably the cheapest, then the remote and the channeling.
yes,
That you're.
that's my guess.
But when we redo the inside, we do the next phase, whatever that is, we can always bury it at that time
Yep.
as part of that project.
Yep,
But we'll be burying that one anyway.
yep. And you can change out the remotes at that point if you happen to hardwire.
So we wanted to be cheapest because we'll get rid of it all anyway.
I just want you to do what's right. That's what I'm trying to get you to help me with. What do you want to do ultimately?
We talked about the second phase, like it's gonna start next year.
And it's not, we don't know that, so
I understand that, but we also had, $400,000 in change orders, right? So,
So let me offer one other couple other things. And I need to sort this with Mitch and with Jeff. But there's a chance that we could do a key switch integral potentially into the frame. Don't know how well that works. It probably has to be surface mounted. It's not going to look like it's flush, but you can put it potentially on the frame. It may work over here in this corner relatively easily, but I want to talk with Mitch and Carpenter and the electrician to understand that.
Aren't
The other
these
thing that you could do,
glass?
that's glass.
I wouldn't.
The other thing that you can do on this one is you can potentially come over here and mount it right off to the side and come into the trim, and it's, you got no
would
issues.
you have to cut into the masonry for that though?
No, you don't.
Okay,
You could
no
put,
extension there.
you could, right, you could come in like this and then go up and in.
So it basically would be surface mounted, but the chain
Right.
would be,
Right. So at most, these are the buttons that are the biggest challenge in terms of what you're trying to do.
Now, those are gonna be, channeled, because we have a chase back there.
Well, they've got to get there, so they could go into the chase and come out again and go into this, but again, if you chose to do remote, they just go here, they're done.
Well, I think the remote sounds a whole lot easier than channeling it. That sounds, by the time you're done running the
Right.
wire chases up there, you're gonna have.
So the remote with the battery, will they be if they need to be changed? Do you know that?
I'll check.
You don't know
We're gonna
anything.
have to start doing it.
That's my biggest concern with
Guess
that.
they have a little battery pack.
It's gotta have something that we know.
And then how quickly can we get replacement batteries? I mean, if we have a special order where it takes a month and it's dead.
I mean, those are gonna be very common. I don't think that's gonna be a deal. I'll check, I'll ask, okay?
They're just saying that our UPSs.
All right. I wanna make sure I'm talking through all this stuff. How much time we got, Dan?
For one thing, well, when you're done, we need to know, we have to have a definitive date for completion because we have a grant that we've already asked for an
I
extension.
understand, and I'm not gonna be able to tell you that until we issue this and understand what the lead times are. So the exterior, I'll leave it to these guys, and I'm guessing all that's on track and we'll get there. This may have an issue or two on it that we've still gotta solve. So if we need to write something to push that, I can help you with that. But I think it's potentially gonna be a minor thing, and most of it will look complete, but, technically, we may have something that runs long. I will know more after I talk to the hardware manufacturers today. Okay, so stay tuned on that.
Did you say it was August 31st?
We
Yeah,
extended it to August.
so we'll just go ahead and rewrite it for the year. We'll work with Rick.
we won't be able to set or lay sod until after the 1st of September, so.
And that's assuming everything else is.
Yeah.
And that won't be a threat to the grant. And you and I can talk about this for a bit. So, okay, I want to make sure we talk about the door locations, fixed roofs. Okay. One other thing that I want to talk to you about. The doors today, there's no threshold on these, right? Just walk up, on the other doors, there's a step. There's nothing there, no bottom, it's also permitted. So what I'd like to do is come in and put a threshold on these. Normally, we would probably put a threshold in a suite. The threshold gives you something that water has to come up and over to get through the building. And the suite would be something, in the way this door works, we would put it on this side, it would be on the inside swing of the door. So we can't put a sweep on the exterior of this door when we swing it because all this trim. So what I'd like to do is put a small saddle threshold in, which is going to have a little bump on it that will have a weather seal on it.
So how will that affect someone coming in like in a wheelchair or something?
In total, it's 1.5 inch tall, which is allowed by code. All right?
So my next question is that we had quote unquote threshold, there was a step. Why didn't we just make that, when we pour the cement, make that allowance for the door? Or was that not, you can't do?
Look at the
you can't
doors,
do
how
something.
imperfect they are.
Yeah.
So that's we just don't want to mess with that. So I can tell you right now, we could do nothing. We could leave it just like this. It's going to be basically the same thing as your other doors. And they are protected because you've got the porch, but on occasion, you're going to get some, a little bit much more and a little bit of rain. I'm going to tell you, when we put this threshold in, if you choose to do that, even if it has the bulb, even if it has the threshold, occasionally it's still going to be moist in there. It is not going to seal perfectly against the bottom of these doors, but it will be better.
Should we do something on something small on both sides because of that potential moisture?
You can't do anything on the other side because of all the profiles of this door.
You mean the other side?
No, there's like right up a small little sweep underneath here, the brackets, just to be an extra.
I wouldn't do it because you're going to run across here and you're still going to have something open there and we can't get back out.
Okay.
So that's why I'm suggesting the threshold on the bottom that will allow the doors to come in there.
Okay.
All right, so that's the piece that we've got there. I want to show you then some things that are going, I just want to make sure that you all understand this. Let's look at this door here for a minute. That transom will stay just where it is. The trim will go just above the doors when it goes back in. And what this looks like is this. Here's the transom window, anything in gray is existing. This here is also in gray, it's not shown correctly, but we're going to have to trim the little tip off of that because that's the door stop, so that will change. But everything else in the exterior will look exactly like it does. On the interior, it does look different because you are going to have to mount the operator. The operator will sit on this side of the door, roughly this location. And when it's installed, it will be visible and look new from one side all the way to the other.
So are you creating a new piece? Is that what you're doing?
It's not a new piece of wood. This is a metal enclosure.
Okay.
That's
So-
on this side of the door?
That is on this side of the door, and it exists on this side, and it'll exist on the other side of this one.
And it goes under the transom.
You see, yeah, right under where that top glass is, it'll run from the hinge to the hinge.
Could you encase it in something so it wasn't so?
No, this has got swing arms on the bottom, and you've got to be able to get in to service it.
Yeah.
And its
So
purpose is for the door function?
it basically has the motor that operates these doors.
And what color is it?
It can be in the same color that I showed you over here.
Bronze.
Yeah, so we've got all the colors coordinated. Now, the other thing that we had to do is, I've gone back and we never calculated the weight of the doors.
You never what?
Calculated the weight of the doors.
Okay.
The doors have been calculated, they are over 300 pounds a piece. The operators that I have out there in the trailer are not sufficient for that, so I'm going to change operators.
Sure.
So we'll do that at the same time as everything else. There's no lead time issue reportedly on that either.
That was just an oversight.
It's noted as the hardware has to have the capacity in the spec. We didn't calculate the door. The hardware manufacturers didn't understand the door. They ordered something, and frankly, it's right on the border, but they told me we could do it, but how can we be safe and go to the next one?
I don't want to.
No, but why would we calculate the weight of the doors as part of this project?
Why wouldn't we?
Why wouldn't we? If these are, I mean, this is the focal point and purpose of the project, would you think that you would calculate the weight of doors? I'm just, we keep hearing things, I'm concerned that we're just gonna be delay, and that's my frustration, is that, you know, this is like the centerpiece of why we're doing this whole ADA access. So I need to understand why.
I can explain that to you, Heather, but we've got to do this to move forward. So I can talk to you about my hardware consultant. I can talk to you about the assumptions that we made in design. I can talk to you about how we don't have complete shop drawings on everything. There's a whole number of things that have contributed to this. This is the way that we move forward, and we've got to
I
do
want to
it.
move forward, but I'm expressing my frustration is that it just seems that this is the center point of the project and we're going to be stuck with stuff that
You're
should
not
have been
getting stuck with anything.
predicted.
No, you're not getting stuck with anything. You're doing this absolutely right. Should we have understood this sooner? Yes.
Yeah, it's the main focal point of the project, so that's my frustration, is now you're telling us we have the wrong part, we have the wrong mechanisms, and we're gonna have to.
You can
replace
express
them.
your frustration. I want to move forward.
It's a 150-year-old building, you're gonna have
A
some.
lot of issues, you don't know. Just,
We own some of this, but we don't own all of it. Okay? We're gonna figure out how to figure out everybody's piece in this and get it done. And we're very close to doing it. I just need a few more pieces of information. Okay?
So, regarding the existing hardware, I wanna make sure that it's preserved, because you said get rid of it, I wanna make sure that.
No.
Get rid of it. I wanna make sure it's preserved.
Yes, we can save all that. I don't know, frankly, if these are even original. They could be. I'm not certain.
I don't
This
think
is,
they
I'm
are. I
certain.
have some chip and I'm hidden in it.
Well, we don't know, but the thing is that.
Keep it, yes.
Keep it.
We'll
Keep-
keep them,
keep all
we
of
got
it.
it, we have them put away safe.
We're moving that out to accomplish this.
This is recessed inside
And
there.
I understand, and we've also got to get stuff to the key switch or potentially the buttons, which is going to be, there's more conduit or additional conduit than just this. The other reason that we need it is we have to move it out so we can get a weather stop on this when the doors swing the other direction.
And we got to put a piece of trim on here.
There's a
You can put the weather strip on this.
No, you can't. The door stays right there. That casing is here. There's no way to get a piece of weather strip over. I'll gladly talk with you about it after Jeff,
Okay.
figure out.
Because this, the radius here, making a piece of radius, that's gonna be time consuming, it's gonna take a while to make that.
Well, I'll be honest.
That's why I
with you.
didn't wanna mess with that.
I
top
understand,
piece.
but all of that can come out, and frankly, nobody can ever even see the top of that. It could be sectional for all we care.
They're
Everybody
gonna see
sees
the
it.
bottom, which we're gonna come up with a piece of trim for.
The bottom, yes, it will, that's true.
And that's what's time consuming, or no?
Well, it took us months to make this radius here, so
It's-
that is something you just pick up at a hardware store.
Oh, no, I
It's
understand.
flat.
Yeah.
It's a flat piece, it doesn't have any of the ornate component there. It's simple. I know that it's got a radius in it, and I know it's more time consuming than a straight piece that we can do.
Okay.
And I don't want corners cut on that, because this is gonna be the signature entrance, and I wanna make sure it looks nice.
Okay, I believe we have gotten through every single piece on this. My goal here is to get rid of the hardware consultants and have Mitch or something, no later than tomorrow that issues everything that we need on this, and we'll go from there.
I guess my only question is if we get a little bit more information on the batteries and the remote work, so that hopefully there's like a low battery.
We'll do that,
or something
right.
like
And the
that.
cost of the batteries and
That's
all
fine,
all that
I'll
stuff.
try to give you a sort of all that, and we can price a couple options. If you want all three priced, we can do it, but if you want to give me direction on whether we're going to remote today or what you want to do there, I can get one price and we'll speed
Would
this
the
up.
wireless be the quickest option?
Wireless is the quickest option, yes.
I think we should go with the wireless.
Right.
That's what the plan is.
Okay, then I will get the key hardwired, I'll give everybody direction on that, and we'll be in good shape. Okay?
Mitch, how's everything else on schedule? You know,
Yeah, I'm going.
like this, sorry, what, cheek walls, the portico singles?
All's going good. Let's try to have the rest of this week and maybe into.
Should we have the rest of the discussion in the annex, because the specific reason why we came over here was for the door?
Well, we're gonna be done in about 5 minutes.
So they're probably into next week. Sheet walls, basements, tuck pointed. Coating shipped today. Coatings for the workways. Yeah, and as soon as these guys are out of here,
Been working on that.
Under the portico chip, or, why is it still wet in the corner where it wasn't? It's wet under.
It's still wet in that corner that I told you about months ago. It's still getting water in it.
I'm not sure how to go look at this.
Yeah, it's wet.
I know it's really humid in there.
It is,
That's what
it's
I'm wondering.
very humid.
But we didn't really get that much water before, and now we're getting more water.
Oh, what about the non-refrigerated concrete that was supposed to replace?
Yeah, that's almost wrapped up. I'm waiting for price on colored concrete. And we'll have it. I'm a little concerned on that. It's scheduled. Just trying to fit that into everything. I don't know if that's something that can be done after the festival.
You really like that done before the sod?
Some of it's pretty dangerous. Yeah, don't
Well,
you?
I mean, you could do most of it from the street side, rather than driving on the site.
Then we'll have to shut off a section, and how much of the block you want to shut off at a time, you know, and
The thing is, though, we can't have people walking on fresh sod.
They're not going to. They're putting everything in the street. They're not going to use our courthouse because we know that.
Okay.
The only place we would have maybe is maybe one entryway so we can do some tours, but we're keeping them off the side.
Okay. And everybody, they know that already.
Yeah, I think they've already put the booths out like they did last year, because we don't want to miss yet.
I would just suggest, and you guys are going to help with this, is I wouldn't want anything open in construction if something was running along and it started to look like that. You might leave the street alone until after festival, or a portion of it.
They're so dangerous, some of them.
Well, it's been that way for years. It would be less dangerous than having something partially complete.
Yeah, I mean, if this was wide open and there's no parking around the square, and we could have it all at once, it'd be, it wouldn't be so bad, but remember, we're finally gonna have from like the middle to the corner. So there's 8 of those sections. 2
Well,
3
according
days
to the
per, so.
city. So we're basically, what you're proposing, just to clarify, is that we wait on the external sidewalk until after the festival.
That would be my preference, but.
Maybe we can use it now.
We'll see how timing, if we get,
Yeah.
get started, we're definitely gonna, hey, if we can get a section done before the weekend, then we'll do that.
Well, that wasn't part of the original project, so I am okay with waiting after Bridge Festival.
But he, like he said, if he can squeeze in a section, he'll do it.
Well, yeah, of course,
Yeah.
but I don't want you to feel like you have to rush to do it.
No, I don't want to.
So,
We might pick the worst part, make sure we say the most dangerous part,
And the 4 centerpieces of the sidewalk goes out to the street, that'll be replaced.
That's part of the instructions, so that'll be.
This is the bolt, and I would recommend it would be on these doors. I just want to make sure you're comfortable with that.
It'll match all this.
It's going to be the same color, but that's what it'll look like. And underneath it, what I would suggest is that we actually put a push plate in. The push plate will look like this. So it's got a little decoration on the edges around it. It would be the same finish. So on one side you would have this and the pole on top of it, and the other side you would just have this.
now, why are you recommending that style over other styles?
This one, these are classic styles like colonial. This one is a more flat skull and low arch in this period. You understand that? So this is the closest thing we have to this style, which will also
Okay, but I think you're right.
Okay.
Good. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Anything else before we go?
Are there any questions for us?
You think this is
Okay.
doable for you guys?
You gotta wait and talk to the lead time, so
Yeah.
before they answer that, when they get the lead times. Okay?
All right, well, we have 10 minutes, let's go ahead and head back.
Just 2 weeks, next Tuesday to discuss that.
Um,
You're the only one who really wants to talk
On
about
a
it.
regular-
I was asked to talk about it, so I would like to talk about it. And even if we talk about it briefly and we add it to the agenda to have a more in-depth discussion, I'd like to do that. We have some, there's some concerns I want to bring up and I'd like to discuss it, otherwise I want it added to it. So can we go ahead and walk back to the annex and finish the meeting?
Certainly, we're at another meeting at 11 o'clock.
The question I have is, how did the move of the postage meter get approved? How did that get approved?
By who?
That's what I'm asking, how did it get approved?
I don't know that it needs to be approved. That's a pretty routine
Well-
operational procedure.
That's pretty much between them, they're the ones
Well,
who use
actually,
it.
the postage meter is rented by various different departments. So when that was done, it was a big surprise that it was moved. I mean, they were informed after it happened. So my question is that since other department heads, including elected officials, pay rental, why wasn't that move coordinated so they know? I mean, we have a big mailing coming up with the tax statements. So-
Those are outsourced. Those
They're
don't get mailed
outsourced?
out of here. They don't
Okay.
get mailed from here.
Okay, that's good to know. So there seemed to be some consternation in trying to figure out. I was told it was approved by the supervisors. I could not find any minutes on it. I don't recall a conversation for that, so I'm trying to, I mean, when we approved the budget, each of these department heads pay rental.
Chip asked me if he could move it to the vault, and I said, I don't care where you move it, I'm not getting in the mix of it. I don't care where it is, that's between them. I didn't care
think-
where it was.
I think it's just a routine operating thing, but I don't think we need to have our fingers in
And
it.
the reason they were told, it was out of water, out of money, and it wasn't serviced, and so that's a huge issue, because then you have to reload all
So
the
whose
money.
responsibility was that?
Well, where it is, if it's in the treasurer's office, then you've got to take care of it. You have to maintain it with posting, with money, water, and ink. And if you don't tell anyone, it's not working, so it was becoming very inconvenient, because it was always low of funds. I never let mine get low of funds, that's a really big issue.
And she was aware of that, yeah?
So the auditor's office has predominantly maintained that machine. It was always in the courthouse, it got moved to the annex. So for 4 years, my office has been managing that machine. Every time it runs out of ink, every time it got broken at the end of one day and nobody told anybody until the next day. Well, come to find out, it was that department that broke it, but they didn't tell anybody. So then I get called to go over there, I stop what I'm doing, I go over there, I look at it, then I have to call Pitney Bowes, and they have to then deploy somebody. And so if my office is gonna be the one that oversees the entire machine,
Okay.
with the lack of heads up that we get, like we have to mail a check to Pitney Bowes, that's the only way to do it. It's a 10-day lag from the time we mail a check until they get it posted.
They don't take,
No,
No,
they do
Wire?
not.
so we
Okay.
have to, we need to know in plenty of time that it's out of funds. Or that it's running low on funds. We have it set up to alert when there's $1,000 left on the machine, so we have time to do that. And there's been a number of cases where it's out of funds or there's $100 left, which doesn't last very long. And so it got to the point, we've had numerous issues with that machine. And so if my office is gonna be the one to manage it, then I'm gonna get it in the building where I can manage it and make sure that Lance isn't having to use his own money to pay for a passport because he gets over here and it's out of funds.
so what I'm hearing is that, there was no communication, so even though you're responsible for it, you were relying on
Yes,
The
the
treasurer-
office that it's in,
the
yes.
offices and to kind of communicate,
Yes.
hey, we're running low, hey, can you
Yes.
come over, blah, 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 and that was not happening.
Correct.
And lots of
Yes.
offices use it, I mean,
Okay.
you
Yeah,
guys
they
use
all
it a ton
use it.
during election
Yeah,
season.
We do, we use
Right.
it multiple times a day, because we're mailing passports, we're mailing regular mail, but it wasn't an issue when the auditor's office was walking over here multiple times a day to mail, but now that another department is gonna have to walk to our building, it has become a problem.
I'm
So-
just trying to figure out what the facts are. That's why I put this on the agenda, because I'm coming straight to the, I don't wanna
Yeah.
say horse's mouth, it's insulting, I
No,
apologize.
it's
but
fine.
basically get
Yeah, sure.
communication from everybody.
Yeah.
Because the concern I have is when I spoke to the assessor's office, they're like, hey, we're not gonna walk over to the courthouse, we're just gonna go right next door to the post office.
And they're gonna pay more money, but
Right.
that's a choice they can make.
Right, and, you know, that's something the assessor's work can figure
Yeah.
out, but, so I'm trying to figure out what the issue was, what happened.
Yeah.
If there were assumptions made or anything like that, because we need to be able to communicate,
Yeah.
and I don't wanna spend any more money than we should.
And I know,
Well, you
Chip
are
had
spending more
told-
money if you're gonna
Jim had
go by
told people in the treasurer's office months ago that that machine was gonna get moved. So they were blindsided by the day it was moved. I didn't realize it was getting moved that morning, or I would have sent an email, and I apologize to all of them, to let them know. But they've known for a while that this was in the works. Brandy offered to take on everything in her office. She doesn't, but they found out she didn't have the space or the phone line and all that. It was gonna require a lot more work for her to take it all on. I mean, she said, I'm willing to take on everything. I'll pull the reports, I'll do the updating, I'll do everything. Well, there wasn't a space for it. So, it just is one of those things. If I'm gonna my office is gonna effectively manage a postage machine, then funds should be on it when it needs to be. And if it needs water and it's out of water,
And ink,
Yeah,
that's
and
big,
ink.
yeah,
yeah,
All right, it's 11 o'clock, it's time for our next meeting. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Motion by Diane, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Heather, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, we are adjourned.